It's just the overnight. And just-
Doing this and then you're going down.
Yeah.
It is. But it's at least been this. My friends.
Talk fast.
Yeah.
Today is Wednesday, November 20th. This is the Nickel Plate Review Committee meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order. First off is pledge of allegiance.
It stands one nation.
Item on the agenda is the
Sure.
Here.
Nieves here. Labyrinth is not with us tonight. Miss Welu.
Well, you.
Love you. I promise that I will get them.
Fine.
And it's your block.
Here.
Thank you.
next item on the agenda is the approval of the previous meeting minutes from October 23rd, 2024. Can I get a motion to approve previous meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is old business. Any old business? Next item is new business, the city view parcels.
Thank you. So for the record, Ross Hillary, planning and zoning director here for the city of Fishers. I'm presenting this on behalf of Kevin, who you guys heard from last time. So I just want to give a little bit of an overview too for the record, as well as for you guys, since it's been a couple months since we've seen this. I will also go over our parking study that we did as staff, and then I'll turn it over to the board team to kind of go over some additional information. So we're familiar with the site. The location is located at the intersection of Lantern Road and 116th Street, approximately 2.5 acres right there. The property is zoned DC Downtown Core. The downtown core is intended to be the place where residents live, work, shop, and dine. And it's a mixture of uses, including commercial, office, retail, and residential, which this project checks a lot of those boxes. The existing Timberline subdivision, which you can see underlined here, has gone through the vacation process back in June of 2024. And will be vacated once the new plat is recorded. All right away that you can see here, the old kind of alley system has also gone through the vacation process. And that will be completed once the property has closed. Here you can see the primary elevation, which is included in your packet tonight. The proposed project is a mixed-use development with 55 plus residential apartment, 189 units. There is around 19,000 square foot of retail space along 116th Street. There will be 2 separate restaurants anticipated to bookend the retail. A high-end one around 8,000 square feet right here at this corner. Second elevation we'll show here is 116th and Moore Street. This is adjacent to First Internet Bank, which will be on the right. A more casual restaurant around 4,000 square feet with outdoor patio will be located here. You can see there at the corner with outdoor dining. Here is the southeast elevation, which is along Lantern Road and South Street. I will let Tom and his team talk about the parking count that's within this structure. There will be 4 floors of stick construction on top of a 2 floor podium. And here's the southwest view along Moore and South Street. This is adjacent again to First Internet Bank and is a catty corner from the District South project that Rebar is building right now as well. Orientation here, 116th Street is at the top of the slide, Lantern Road to the east, South Street to the south, and Moore Street to the west. You can see here utilizing that entire block structure that we saw earlier for this building along with the garage. Primary access point for the garage for guests and residents will be along Moore Street and South Street with back end of house or back of house along Lantern Road. There is no access off of 116th for vehicles. Something that was updated in your packet that got sent out today, and I'll let Tom kind of go through these high level. So the previous elevation you'll see at the bottom, that was what was discussed at our last meeting. Some minor changes were included in there. Some awning areas have been reduced. The material itself has not changed. You will still see that all sides of the development has podium or balconies for the residential product. Here you will see a slight change in one of the stair locations, which provides a little bit taller of a tower. My understanding too is that the garage structure itself was redesigned, so you'll see some of those changes here. I believe as a committee, you asked for additional screening along those garages, some additional material to be incorporated in there. All of the landscaping that you're seeing here is on purpose and is located where landscaping beds will be at. So it's not just for show, it's actually where those are intended to be. That being said, we do anticipate these vegetation to grow and get larger. So you will see that kind of change as the building progresses. This is the south elevation along South Street. Again, you'll see slight modifications in the garage structure itself, along with some landscaping changes. And then the west elevation, we do have a standard parking signage that we feel like we're doing a really good job across the whole downtown. So this area building will incorporate it into that kind of parking strategy, which we'll talk about. So you'll see that slight modification in the City View parking sign that will default to our standard sign package. Some context here as well, adjacent buildings. So this will be directly next to the First Internet Bank, which is now the primary thing you see when you exit off of the interstate. This new building will now be that kind of gateway into our downtown. And then across the street, you also have the Nickel Plate Station, which is that multifamily mixed use development. They have committed some public art opportunities at Catty Corner location, District South project. So the Arts Commission will work with the development on their identified one location at South Facade. That being said, staff is primarily supportive of the project. There are a couple waivers that are requested here. So the height of the building exceeds our maximum allowed. And you guys have the ability to add 2 additional stories to developments. And this brings this development just under 81 feet. And for context, First Internet Bank is at 103 feet. Those can be slightly underneath First Internet Bank. The other one, which staff is comfortable with, is facade requirements. We do have a requirement that 75% of frontages along public right of way, which on this one is all 4 sides, is required to be a masonry material. They have done a good job of providing a mixture of both masonry, metal, and glass into that. Those are provided as well. And then lastly, we request that all attack comments, which they've worked tirelessly to address, are included in that. So staff is requesting this to be approved with these 3 waivers. And before I turn over to our team here, I do kind of want to go over our parking study that we did in October. This is something that as a department, we will do moving forward quarterly. So in October, we did one, two, three, four, five, six counts of our garages in downtown, which is all 7 of them. This data included that the areas with non-residential attached to it, such as the Edge and the First Internet Bank garage, which I think is important tonight, have peak hours during the mornings and afternoon, and then a very reduced low rate in the evenings. Our average utilization of our parking garages is at 38%. That is morning, noon, and night. What that means is there are around 60% of the parking spots in the garages are available to be used throughout the downtown. A couple other things that are kind of important to this. In our full downtown parking count, we have just shy of 3,000 parking spots. So 2,958. To be exact, 900 of those are public parking spots with no restrictions. 700 of those are reserved parking spots, and around 1,300 of those are within a gated area. The Edge garage specifically, we saw our evening utilization at around 18%. I'm happy to share this directly with the committee. And like I said, we intend to do parking counts quarterly moving forward. To collect good data, we have to do multiple counts at the same time period. And so we counted them in the morning, the evening, and in the afternoon to try to get the best amount. Again, the residential ones were the ones that we were kind of most thrown off by, because not necessarily sure when people return home. So we will continue to find good data for that. With that, happy to answer any questions, and I will turn it over to Tom.
Thank you, Ross. For the record, my name is Tom Dickey. I'm president of Rebar Development. Thank you for hearing me a second time. Greg Jacoby is here with me with Browning Day, and Greg's going to handle the architecture discussion tonight, some of the improvements we made. And they're not all improvements. We did make some changes where we opened up the garage just a little bit, some key areas, so we can point that out, and there are the reasons for that. So I'll let him handle that. But I do want to talk about parking. And I know, Rich, can you hear us okay?
I can. Thanks, Tom.
Rich and I spent some time before the last meeting talking about this, and I hadn't really thought about parking until Rich. I had thought about parking a long time on this project. We thought about it a lot when we were planning it, and then we got into sort of entitlements and so forth. But that discussion really did cause us to sort of refocus and really think about parking. And then, I thought it was a great thing for us to do, to go back and draft this parking plan. And so we submitted it, and then Rich and I met after we submitted it, and we made some changes. But I wanted to start with, it's a nice follow on to what Ross just talked about, how the parking garage fits into an ecosystem. I mean, it is intentionally not designed to cover the peak parking that could ever happen in the uses there. And if we were to do that in the city, we just have parking everywhere. It also is intentional. The project is next to the Edge. When the Edge was built, we knew that there was no residential there. So the hope was someday there would be residential close to it, so that there could be some shared parking there too. So, and then something else was very intentional with the amount of retail on the first floor to line all entire stretch of 116th Street is lined with retail. And then that can also then share during the day and evening, sort of the nesting concept. So that planning was just very intentional to kind of arrive at the right size. And cost was certainly a part of that. And the city with the administration was a very big piece of sort of balancing that. The 18% utilization in the evening at the Edge is kind of the key. I mean, that is, as I showed the parking plan, it's 346 feet from the Edge parking door. So not really from a parking spot in the Edge garage, but from where you leave the garage to the front door, like the marquee restaurant we would have is 346 feet. If you had to park in the garage over at the Yard and walk to HC Tavern, it's about 310 feet as a comparison. And then if you go to 1933 Lounge, you just have a bad parking spot in the surface lot, that can be as much as 300 feet. So we're all Midwesterners and we all want to park by the door, but in reality, it's not all that far. So a lot of this has been intentional. But again, it was great for us to kind of look back and kind of reconfirm some of our our decision making and really start to get this, because this plan now will go into the hands of our property managers and we start probably 6 months before opening where we can really start implementing some of these processes. With respect to the design of the project specifically, so the garage design shows, so on, which one is, no, it's just, it's going, it was just taking a second. There we go. So this is the design of our garage. As Ross said, you can come in from the south or from the west of the project. From the south is where we come in, we hit that valley drop off. So it's a protected area. There'll be bollards there. It'll feel different than any other garage in Fishers, certainly. A little bit more like a hotel kind of drop off that you feel. Even the entrance there is going to have brick inside the garage. And then there's a pass through out to 116th Street. So people aren't having to kind of walk through the garage to go around and get in there. So these garages have lives of their own. We don't know on day one when that restaurant on the East End opens, whether it will need to have valet parking, maybe just wants to have valet parking. But we're prepared to sort of grow into the garage. And at some point we do expect with sort of lively restaurants on each end that on busy Friday and Saturday nights that we'll do valet parking. So that's been part of the plan from the beginning. Other things we'll do, we'll certainly manage the retail, we'll curate the retail. It won't be all restaurants. If you have those two key restaurants on the end, certainly in the middle, we'll be aiming for more of the 9 to 5 user there. Maybe a sandwich shop, but one that's probably not going to be busy in the evening, but more for professional uses in the middle. We'll also try to manage our two car households. So that second car, if you want to be in the garage, you won't be in the secure part on the second floor. And if you want to be on the first floor, you're probably going to have to pay us more, which is going to kind of discourage that second car. And then just lots of wayfinding and parking signage. Ross referred to that. That's just part of, I think, educating the community and our residents on how easy it is to park in a garage. And Selena and I even talked about, like, let's say on a Friday night we are valeting, Tiburon's happening, Max and Tilly's is hopping, our two restaurants are hopping. It's really, and there are no spots in the garage, then the valet company can just, put it out the sandwich board and say, valet only at the doors. And then people kind of know once you're trained, you kind of know which ways to go. So those are all tools we have to sort of manage the parking in the garage. And then the demand itself. So on page 6 of the study or of this plan, we kind of lay out the demand that we've associated with each of the product types in there. So we have each residential unit through 191 units will get 1 parking spot. And our experience with active adult will tell us that maybe 0.2, so like 1.2 total, 1.3 maybe of all those units will have two cars. And so that we sort of plan on that demand. Our employee parking is just a typical retail employee parking strategy. Like Target doesn't let their employees park at the front door. We would do the same thing. Because again, if we grow in the garage, we're probably first telling them to park far away in the garage. And then when the garage starts filling up, we just tell them to go find some other place where there's no demand at night and park there. Again, the middle suites, the 3 suites in the middle of retail will not have much demand in the evening. We've assumed that 1 will be open in the evening and 2 will just have 9 to 5 sort of business there. And that'll be our responsibility to kind of curate that. So I think it fit. I'd like to have 25 more parking spaces. I'd feel a little more comfortable with that. But I think when you hear numbers like 18% utilized, and I've also walked all these garages and I've never seen a garage full. They just aren't full. And so I think it'll be a great day when this one is full and somebody's got to go find somewhere else to park. It's kind of like we did accomplish something. We've accomplished a really vibrant place. So if you have any questions on the plan, I'd be glad to answer those. If not, I'm going to introduce Greg.
Let me ask one question. Yeah. What is and Ross, maybe what is the maximum usage that we've seen in a garage on a typical day? I'm not talking like during Spark Fishers or when there's things at the amphitheater. I mean, just on a regular day, you say, the average is 38%. What's the maximum usage?
Shy of 55.
Shy of 55. Okay.
So if you do that backwards, that means 45% of the spots are open.
Okay.
And to your point, exactly, that is on a typical business day. This isn't
Yeah.
Spark Fishers. It's not a concert series where we're encouraging and actually hope that our garages are packed for the sake of our public events. So this is like a typical Monday through Friday.
Ross, for the architecture, will we drag this window over here, or how do you?
Go back.
You want
Tom, I
yours?
might have a question for you.
Yes.
You were talking about pedestrians, what,
Yes,
get into the garage?
yes.
You said, where do they get out? If they're driving in, how do they?
How'd you get from there to there?
It's the top tab. Go to the top.
Oh, thank you. So much easier when you're sitting out there than it is when you're under pressure. Okay, so, two entrances where these red lines are, and they're two-way, so you can come in either way. First floor, the secured resident parking starts right about the ramp, which is nice. So if all the first floor, 100 and some spots are all public. Come in here and you park, let's just say you don't valet, you park right here. You can see my cursor right there. So this, you're going to something on 116th Street. This is just a walk through the garage to right here. And this is not open, it's conditioned space. It'll be cool in the summer, hot, warm in the winter. Double doors each way. So that's the pass through there. So you can go through there to get to 116th Street and then to the restaurant right here or to other restaurants there. And then the pedestrian flow is actually right along this parking spaces. And then next to, I can't remember if it's part of there's a door right beside the auto we'll see on the elevations, but the actual pedestrian, the pedestrian flow is right there, and then the same thing. So there's three ways out of the garage as a pedestrian.
Okay. Because I know some of our downtown garages, you have to
Yes.
escape the same, and that's really challenging with families and strollers and all the
Yes.
other cars coming. So, okay.
That's why there's actually four. So this one is all pedestrian. This one, Greg can point out when he looks at the elevations, and then it is combined. And then the fourth one is a lobby elevator. And so that's a pedestrian entrance and exit to the garage right there.
Great, thanks.
On the architecture, this is very similar to what you saw the last time we presented. This is our primary facade. Off the ramp from the highway. This is the dominant facade you're going to see. You're almost about at second or third level when you're level with the bridge. So that's why we have that eyebrow there to kind of view the levels of the building. And primarily on this facade, we have three. It's kind of the building's broken into three divisions. So there's more glass and masonry facade. We have kind of a monolithic facade in the middle, which we term the wicket. And then there's just a common facade on the other end. The western side was meant to be a facade that blended into First Internet Bank. It's like don't be competitive with that. First Internet Bank's really nice. We need to take a back seat in that a little bit. So we try to bring the same color brick over, but just be quieter. Let that facade pick up the rest of the view. This is the also 116th Street facade. This is where I think the last time we showed continuous canopies over all of the storefronts. And we started to think that's a little mundane, and we wanted to celebrate where the doors are. So we just went back and broke this up. Every time there's a door, we have a canopy. We're assuming that there'll be some kind of signage. We don't know who the tenants will be. There's a signage opportunity on the canopy. And then we just did a band over the top of the storefront windows and kind of keep a band of brick, different colored brick along that side, just kind of blend it together. We also took the base brick and brought it up around the base of this building. We ran it all around the whole building. So as you're walking on the sidewalk, you're going to see an opening. Two different, a base color and a main body color for the brick. On this elevation, unfortunately, when you're building this site, there is no back door. Everything is a primary facade. So we took what we needed to as far as our some loading and things we need for the restaurant. And also we wanted a lot of daylight to come in the side because our main entrance is on the second floor for the active adult. We wanted to get that to have as much daylight as we can. So we opened up kind of the walls along that side. We let the concrete be exposed. We put brick in front of those, just like we did at the garage at First Internet. And then a lot of it is just, we actually have a yard there. So we're gonna let the landscaping come up in that area. We're showing landscaping, we think here in this 50-60-year part. Here you can see the building from Lantern Road. looking north, east. That's the corner where we felt that both sides of that block of brick that we shown there could be some type of an art. It could even be art on the brick, which is kind of neat when people paint signage and some built on brick. We then have our openings, and we have the man door that's there, or actually our move-in areas where those two people are standing. That area on the weekends would be for move-in. And the rest of it is just the brick openings that we have through the facade. We put this picture here just to kind of look at how we did First Internet Bank's garage, where there's brick and poured in place concrete exposed and kind of combined. This is our garage is very similar to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say you match that. That looks nice. Yeah.
And then this is the straight on the eastern facade, which is not the back door, but it's our primary facade, and then set behind that is the loading area that's that's to the south of what we call the east wing. Here's the elevation along
Yeah, that's the more
western elevation. The 116th Street elevation. I see the three different colors of brick. Trying to quiet the building down. Some of the buildings think like there's too much action in them, so we're trying to quiet this one down. The big thing is kind of look at the wickedness. Here you start to see the south elevation. And then it's a little bit of a shadow over that because the other elevation you're looking at is almost 300 feet away. So your primary facade is what you see there in the brighter color. And then we just did a quick comparison of last time we were here at the meeting to our new elevation. Probably a little hard to see on the screen, maybe easier to see if you have them in your packet, but they're really about the same. We're just kind of playing with some openings. The brick colors overall have stayed the same. The overall accent of the gray has stayed the same. We've reduced the height of the trees. That might have been the person that rented this was a landscape architect, and we had to kind of pull them back a little bit for being so large. Same with this elevation, you kind of see what we've done here. There's a little more openings to the north. That's where actually our doors are. So we're trying to get more daylight into that. Same with those two elevations. Really about the same. Western elevation. Yeah, a few more brick columns into that elevation. And a little more brick in the back in the southern corner because we're concerned about the dark parking area in that zone.
And I don't know if, at least, if we really intend for the light color brick to be that different, if that's just a rendering? Because I don't really,
No, I mean the brick.
well, I mean, on that last elevation,
Oh,
it really looked at white.
go back to that.
That one. I just,
No, I think that's just how it got rendered.
yeah, I think it's not quite, that looks almost white on the top. It's really, that's not more of a muted, I think.
More muted.
Yeah.
We're really trying to, we found a brick that's very close to First Internet brick, and we're just trying to.
So it will be more reddish than
Right, I think it's just the way it got rendered. The way the computer's reading the PDF that we sent.
Yeah,
It wasn't a change in brick. Those two are similar.
yeah, the West End really is intended to be a cousin of First Internet Bank. That was the intent all along.
One was on a sunny day, one was on a.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, no, let's, go ahead.
Oh, I'll just open up to the committee for comments. Question.
Few questions, on the awning, the changes of taking out to where it's not continuous. I like the way that you kind of matched a lot of the First Internet. Is there any way to match the First Internet, they've done on the awnings? So,
And those are like, they're at the window.
These awnings and the first center awnings. Their awnings are, it's aluminum piece. We know what it is. Aluminum piece, ours are very similar.
so this is kind of matching, what do I want to say, the.
Not exactly the same family.
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't feel that it has to be a continuous awning down there, though I like it when I'm walking and it's raining.
Yeah.
But I do want it to kind of match, I would say, if, and I'm just gonna use numbers. So let's say the First Internet building is covered, 50% of it is covered with awnings. If we could have 50% of this building, or 40 to 60% or something like that, kind of match that coverage. I don't know what the percentage is. I just like matching the First Internet building and kind of bringing that continuously down the street. I realize that some of it will be, especially over the restaurant, will be a higher awning. It won't be
Yeah.
quite down as, close to the ground. But in those retail shops, if it could kind of just match the First Internet would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I think it is a similar cadence. I think, because I think theirs are, since they don't have retail doors, particularly as you sort of get to the west end of the building.
Uh-huh.
Remember, it kind of lines with the window. It's almost like they're over there's steel, well, you would know, but
Yeah.
there's steel in between the window stacks or aluminum or something black. And then there's an awning right there. And then there's brick, and that picks up the next line with the window.
And that's what we're doing here. We're bringing where there is brick all the way up, that's where the awnings land. So there's a rhythm that's determined by
I see.
the spacing of the brick on the second and third level of the building. The awning that sits below that.
Okay.
Just, like I said, for me, it's hard to see that. So I just want to encourage you to work with staff on that and see what we can do just to kind of make sure it matches. That's my only concern. Just match the First Internet building on that, and what that looks like and whether I can see it in these renderings, that I don't know. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But just that's the only thing I'd like to see on the awnings.
Question about signage, Ross. Is there a separate review when it comes down to the actual signage? Because, you're just showing suggested.
Yeah, so from my understanding, there is no request for like a special sign like First Internet Bank has. That did fall under the purview of the review committee. Other than that, our staff just handles all sign permits.
And so that's going to help control scale.
That is
Sign.
correct. Yeah, scale, location. I think on our downtown buildings, it's typically along the primary first story, or it's at the top. So the only thing that we would allow other than that is like blade signs that would traverse more than one floor. But those all have square footage allotments. The biggest kind of blade signs that we have down here would be the Braden building, and then Hotel Nickel Plate.
Yeah, I've noticed in other buildings sometimes the signage feels like a scale too large. This feels fine, but I know that this is just
Right.
an image and that
Yeah.
comes later.
Ours is based off of the amount of footage or linear footage they have against the road. And it's typically also dictated by the linear foot of like the unit So say unit 1A has 300 feet of frontage, then we have a math equation that we do to try to base that on scale.
Okay.
So
And so-
Russ, just to clarify on that a little bit, I'm gonna look at East La Macaroon at the First Internet.
Yep.
We can expect signage, I'm assuming, kind of along with this first level retail, kind of something similar to that.
Those are good examples of ones that met our sign standards. It may be a little, they could have maybe had a slightly larger one, but some of those also then are dictated based on the physical architecture.
And then, my last question is, where in the building are all like the meter banks and the stuff that we don't really want to see? Where did you check those?
They're tucked in into I think the right word, armpit's not the right word. That's
And
the building in the L. Yeah,
Okay.
that's where the majority of them are. And then there's some on the west side, but be on Moore Street facing the First Internet Bank garage. Yeah, so they're in that
In that.
corner.
They're back in it. We actually, there's a fence that comes out here. That extends it over this. This is the loading area for the parking. And they're all kind of in this zone, but that's why I brought this fence out here to put it back there.
Okay.
And then some on the west side, the southern part of the western elevation, there's some there too. Behind landscape as much as they could be.
Okay. Tried to pull the landscaping to be
Yeah.
this great.
I'm gonna make mention of the public comment that was submitted. It seems like a lot of the concern is that employees may be parking on street parking. I know in other communities that I've been through, short-term parking, 2-hour parking. Does the city have any vision for what that might look like if there starts to become issues with businesses not being able to have, I guess, clientele park?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's why we were directed to start doing our own parking counts. That being said, this focused primarily on parking garages. It did not evaluate our on-street parking. That being said, those are currently unmetered. They are free to the public. The only restrictions we have downtown is no overnight parking. So I think between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, based on availability, we have police that can do a sweep. There has been discussions on what that looks like in the future based on quantity and how our downtown grows. I think there may be a future at some point where our on-street may become metered, but outside of this parking study, we haven't done anything. Thank you for bringing that up. So that public comment was received. For you guys, that is part of a larger discussion, in the South Village area, as that area kind of builds out and you see how that kind of feels. This one we felt comfortable with, that is north of that. Discussion.
do you have concerns about putting up signs with like 2-hour parking or 1-hour parking without meters or anything? Simply because people very quickly learn that it's not policed. So they just park and it becomes, well, what's the point in the sign? And I've seen that in so many different communities. Unless we're going to enforce it, I would prefer not to put up those signs, I guess is what I would say.
I agree. I would say that any parking restrictions we have now are enforced.
Yeah.
But we're with you on signage fatigue. And we want to make sure residents and guests and visitors can figure it out. Honestly, if I see a sign on the spot, I just keep going because I don't want to read it and there's something else, right? So unless it fully says like public parking, other limitations, that would be cool. So part of a much larger probably discussion.
Can I get a motion to approve the
Can
site?
can I offer some comments, if you don't mind?
Yes, please.
Yeah, sorry, I was just waiting till the end because I was having a little trouble hearing you, but I guess I'll start with a thank you to Tom. As he said, he and I sat down and had just a real good discussion about the parking. And, I think I mentioned previously that I love the project. I think it's, from a design and targeted market. I think it's excellent. But of course, the concern was, as I voiced before, about making sure that the demand, particularly at the peak time, restaurants was met. I believe that the plan that Tom has will help a lot, and I really hope that it works. I was actually encouraged when Ross commented earlier about the ongoing, I think, quarterly studies, or revisiting where we're at just generally. And that's, I think everyone has kind of said it, but I do think we're at a point where we need to continue to educate the public about what and where parking is available. We need to have good wayfinding, but then certainly the concerns that were voiced along Lantern Road, and how does that get integrated into an overall parking infrastructure? It's just important, and just something that I think as new projects come online have to or has to be taken into account. But what I was going to maybe offer to Tom and ownership of the project is, I think the plan is really about as good as you can get. I think you've thought through ways in which you can mitigate some of the demand concerns, if you will. What I would encourage Tom, you guys, and ownership to do is make sure that you as owner, or that the landlord, has full control over what happens with parking. And I think you'll put things in leases that require parking at certain times, and but I think the big challenge is going to be control and monitoring. And I think that's just going to be something that you'll probably have to work through. But what I would also encourage you to do is create flexibility with your controls and your leasing and governing documents that allow you to modify reasonably where you can what may happen in there, so that if there are problems down the road that have to be addressed, you've got that control built in. But I think at this point, I mean, honestly, I think the merits of the project and really what you've come up with are, to me, as good and workable as it's going to get. I think you've thought through ways in which to mitigate it, and I absolutely recognize it's a financial balance to not creating any more than you need, making sure that the project can support the overall cost. So but it is a real issue, and even though there is in the city vacancy that exists in garages, people aren't going to understand that. People aren't going to know that the police garage, which probably is 15% occupied, is available, or they're not going to be willing to accept to park there. And so that's where the challenge is. It's proximity. It's going to be enforcement, and we're not, maybe that's a tougher way of saying it, but management of that. So, having said that, I am prepared to support the project. I just wanted you to at least, Tom, think about ways in which you can continue to have control over things that may come up in the future, so that you can, best address the needs going forward.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, I heard you well, so I get that. And I think it will be in our interest to have as much meat and flexibility in the leases, because we want those folks to be successful and keep paying rent. So, but understand and thank you for your guidance and work on this.
Well,
Thanks, Rich. Can I get a motion to approve the site design and architecture of the City View project to include the 3 major waivers?
I'd also like to add that
just the awning, they work with staff on kind of making sure that it matches the first internet bag as well.
So can I get a motion to approve the site design and architecture for the city project, which includes the 3 major waivers and also developer to continue working with staff on facades to see if there's ways to mimic the first internet makes, so it's blendable and cohesive.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
Next on the agenda is staff communication.
No new staff communication.
The only thing I believe
Oh, I apologize.
is next year's schedule. So I wanted to run that by everybody, let you know it's there. And we'll be sending out Outlook invitations for this in the near future.
Will we have a meeting in December?
I can't confirm that we won't, but I don't believe so. That's a,
Gotta think through that one.
I don't believe we have any pending items, so you should see that cancellation.
Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Thank you for listening.
thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks for see you later. See you in the morning. Oh, I just pick it up. Then, question, oh, it's here now? Okay. Question I